the Reclaim Party, former MEP, and we're here tonight to have a fair, open, inclusive and balanced debate about the by-election and, more to the point, the situation at Batley Grammar School, which seems to have been completely ignored by all of the politicians on the ticket. With that in mind, tonight's speakers. First, Laurence Fox, the leader of the Reclaim Party. Following that will be a statement from a parent of a person who has two pupils at the Batley Grammar School to give us their take on the situation. That will be followed by a guy you might know, Paul Halloran. Paul Halloran brought a magnificent general election campaign basically out of his shed, using his own wherewithal, and achieved a tremendous 12% of the vote at the last general election. Hands to Paul. As I said, in the spirit of a balanced debate, we then have a statement from the Labour candidate, Kim Ledbetter, to read out. She sadly couldn't make it tonight. And the Looney Party has turned up. But the monster raving Looney Party has just turned up, so come on! Responsible politicians, Mr. Galloway. And the finale of the event, the Rod Stewart, if you like, gorgeous George Galloway, will be giving a statement. And again, in the spirit of a full, fair and balanced debate, we did reach out to Ryan Stevenson, the Conservative candidate. Sadly, he seems to be missing in action. If anybody knows where Mr. Stevenson is, can you please check on him? We're concerned. He didn't answer a single phone call or email or request for a statement. So Batley and Spen voters, make of that what you will. He didn't want to take part in this debate tonight.
You didn't ask me.
Well, you can come up, mate.
Come up and speak.
Go on. Let's hear it for the Looney Party.
It just got
no
credible.
further ado, I'd like to pass on, please, to tonight's first speaker, Mr. Laurence Fox, the leader of the Reclaim Party. Laurence, over to you.
Good evening, and thank you very much to Paul Halloran for inviting me here, and it's a great pleasure to come and speak to the people of Batley. Thank you so much for turning up. The reason I am here is because I stand with the teacher, and it is and I believe that it is absolutely shameful that neither of the main political parties are addressing this clearly very important issue. The Reclaim Party stands for freedom of speech, for tolerance, for the broadest possible debate, and for the preservation of our British culture, our shared British culture. We are all British here. Yes. As you all know, in March, a teacher at Batley Grammar School showed a cartoon depiction of Muhammad in a religious studies class, and subsequent to this was suspended by his head teacher. He was thrown under the bus by his local education union, he was thrown under the bus by his local MP, and he was thrown under the bus by our government and mostly by the media. He is now living fearful of his life in hiding with his partner and 4 young children. Shame. Indeed, the only people that stood up for this teacher vocally, other than you good people, were the bin men of the Unite Union of Bury. Bravo to them. And to the young students who formed a group in opposition to his suspension from within the grammar school, and I applaud them, and they are our hope for the future. It has since been agreed that pictures of the Prophet will never be shown again following this direct action, and the school has apologised to the demands of an intolerant minority. And now, as a result, we have a de facto blasphemy law, brought in by a mob, not by Parliament, not with royal assent, but by a mob. This is not the Britain we want to live in. We cannot have an education policy driven by intimidation, bullying, and death threats.
Hey, hey.
Freedom of speech does not mean that we condone the speech of those we disagree with. It means that we fight for their right to express themselves freely. Yes. Without freedom of speech, other weapons are used to make people's points for them. The fact that the Batley Labour Council
Thank you, Martin, Laurence, Paul, ladies and gentlemen. Banning a rally on free speech is kind of peak Kirklees Council, don't you think? Only Kirklees could think that was a good idea, and I'm glad to say that the police force have got more sense than to seek to enforce such a ban. But when I'm standing in front of a for sale sign of Batley Police Station, which has been closed and sold for the paltry sum of £246,000 to a property developer for luxury flats. Of all places, of all things, the Batley Police Station has been closed and sold for the price of a chip shop. I'm investigating to whom it's been sold, and if I'm elected as the MP, I'll be investigating it even more deeply, and I'll be investigating why it was sold for such a low price. I intend to open the books in Kirklees if I get the chance to do so. Paul has just opened books tonight on this affair, which most people don't know about. And that's because neither the media nor the political class here has wanted the whole facts out into the open. We know the conclusion of the report into this affair, but we haven't seen the report. We want to see the report to work out whether or not they reached the right conclusion. And we can't do that until we have seen the report. I talk to Laurence Fox all the time, and I hope to talk to Paul more deeply. And let me just say, I wish he'd been standing in this by-election. It would have been a much fairer fight. This man's almost miraculous achievement last time will, I hope, bear fruit next time, because I'll not be standing next time. But I am standing this time, and so you deserve to know where I stand on the issue of free speech. There are limits to free speech, the libel law being one of them. I've made use of that from time to time. Incitement to hatred and so on, violence, incitement to disorder, shouting fire in a darkened cinema, are all proscribed issues of free speech. But one of the reasons I talk with Laurence all the time is I abhor this cancel culture.
Hey, hey.
Where every person to the right of you is called far right, and if they're 2 steps to the right of you, they're called a fascist. Laurence Fox is neither of these 2 things, and neither is Paul Halliday. We have to be able to have respectful, even profound disagreements, without hating each other, without regarding each other as enemies, because as Laurence so sagely said in his speech, we are all British here.
Hey, hey.
All of us are British here. I was trending on Sunday morning on Twitter as far right because I supported Brexit, and far right because I opposed the cancel culture, and far right. And there's far too much of it, and we must stand up and fight it. We must fight for everyone's right to a point of view, including the teacher in the Batley Grammar School, who from Paul's account has been shamefully betrayed by those people above him in the chain of command in the local education area. If it's the case, as Paul said, that no image was shown in the classroom, then what was this all about? There is no proscription, even in the Islamic religion, to talking about depictions. I've just done it, and no one yet has stoned me for doing so. If there was no image in that lesson, then what was this all about? With such tragic consequences, not just for the family and the teacher, but for the reputation of this area. Already, we have one dark cloud over us, because here, a member of Parliament was cruelly murdered on the streets whilst exercising her public duties. And now we've got another one, the Batley grammar issue. We want this place to be recognised in Britain and beyond for something better than those 2 things. And so we need a political class that has some brains and has some courage. Those lions, the lion and the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz, strike me as a fair depiction of the political representation we've had around here. Labour are complaining there's a by-election, but it was them that caused the by-election. It was their MP doubling her money and going on to what she thought was a better job than the lowly task of representing this constituency in the House of Commons. Well, she may not have represented you. She's certainly flown the course. She's bolted and is now being even more handsomely remunerated for doing so. I am very concerned about what's taught in the schools. Some of you won't like this. I'm the father of 5 school-aged children. And I don't want my young children at primary school, aged 7 and 9, taught about sex. I don't want them taught how to masturbate.
Hey, hey.
I don't want them taught about anal sex. I don't want them taught that there's 99 genders I don't want them taught that men can become women by the mere act of declaring themselves to be and end up in an Olympic team beating the actual girls and the actual women.
Hey, hey.
I don't want them taught that parents chest feed when in fact it's women who breastfeed. Glory to women.
Hey, hey.
Women hold up half the sky. This kind of woke, liberal identity politics is anathema to me. So I want parents' views on what their children are taught and when they're taught it to be taken properly into account. And in this area, that is not happening. We have a council so stupid, they sold a police station and tried to ban a free speech rally. Napoleon said that war is too important to be left to generals. Well, education is too important to be left to Mufti Pandor, Councillor Pandor, or teachers, or head teachers. We, the parents, have to have our wishes properly taken into account on the curriculum. In religious education, in PSE, in the way our history of our country is taught, so that our children are not taught to hate their own country, to think their own country is the worst country in the world, when in fact it's the best country in the world in which to live, which is why so many people want to come and live in it. I've gone on perhaps too long. I could have sent you a message. I could have sent you an email. Or like the Scarlet Pimpernel standing for the Tory party, I could have just disappeared. But Laurence Fox invited me. Paul Halloran invited me. And it's my honour to stand on this platform with them. Thank you very much indeed.